Welcome to the Content Champion podcast. We provide the training and tools to help you become a content marketing champion in your online business. Introducing your host, the content champion himself, Loz James.
Hello again. Welcome to another episode of the Content Champion podcast. Thanks for listening. 2 quick announcements. To get early bird discount pricing on the upcoming Content Champion Academy, join our VIP list today at contentchampion.com/academy. Secondly, to follow over my shoulder as I build a money-making authority site from scratch, visit contentchampion.com/ace and sign up to updates on the authority content experiment. Now, on today's show, I'm delighted to welcome marketing automation expert and founder of Systemly, Greg Hickman. Every seasoned marketer knows that building your email list is essential if you want to succeed online, but very few of us know exactly how to put all the pieces together to create an automated sales funnel that actually converts. The great news for us is that Greg and his team have years of experience in doing precisely that. And in this episode, he helps us understand how to create high converting funnels that turn leads into customers and create more money in less time. Let's dive in. Thanks for coming on, Greg.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, before we dig down into your sales funnel and marketing automation process, could you tell us how you got started in the industry, please, and how Systemly was founded?
Yeah, for sure. So I had been in the mobile marketing space for over a decade, and my kind of first dab into starting my own business was starting a blog and podcast on the side while still working a full-time job, all about mobile marketing, an area that I had a lot of experience in. And that turned into creating digital courses and then essentially an agency. And that agency, I got to a point where we were making about really only $7,000 a month. And it was just kind of plateaued. And I was using Infusionsoft myself in my business to kind of streamline operations. And I got to a point where I said, like, something needs to change. And the most logical thing for me to offer outside of the mobile expertise was automation and helping people with their Infusionsoft. So I actually went and I got certified in Infusionsoft. And then I went out to some people that I knew and I said, hey, would you be interested in having help with this? And long story short, in 7 days, we had 6 customers for that, which at that point I said, okay, there's way more opportunity here for, marketing automation support. So that was August of actually last year. So 2015. So at that point I said, all right, I'm going all in on this business, which became Systemly. And over the balance of last year, I phased out all of the mobile marketing stuff I was doing.
So in positioning terms, you really went from being more of a generalist to being a specialist.
I was very specialist in the mobile space too. That's all we really did was mobile, which, is definitely a very specific element of marketing. So I kind of went from specialist to specialist, just in different areas with different customer types as well. So, with the mobile stuff, we were working with small retail, and with the automation stuff, we're working with online course creators.
Okay, and you've worked with the likes of John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire.
Yep.
So it's an amazing story, very, very fast, rapid success story, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how fast we've grown. I mean, since August of 2015, we're recording this the end of May of 2016. We're a team of 7, including me, and we have 25 clients that we support actively right now.
Fantastic. Okay, then we're going to talk about sales funnels today, and marketing automation, all that type of thing. So if we want to start a new sales funnel, or perhaps improve an existing one, how does it all start? Do we start with a better understanding of our target audience and kind of what their pain points are?
100%. I mean, hopefully if you have a site and you're creating content, you're creating it for someone specific, someone that's already coming to your site, or at least you have an idea of who you want to serve. So I would want to know, do you know why people are already coming there? And when they come there, what result are they trying to achieve? And, knowing that will help dictate, what product you have, and then what how you get people into buying that product and kind of nurture them into buying that product. So that kind of dictates the funnel.
Okay. Your process in sort of digging down into that, how do you do your audience research? How's that pan out?
Well, so for us specifically, our clients already know that. So we don't really work with a lot of beginners. We work with people that already have an audience. They already have a product that they're selling. They've had some traction. They need help scaling it, automating it, and really just need someone to do it for them. And that's kind of where we've come into play. But I will say we have also worked with a fair amount of beginners before we kind of evolved to what we're at now. And I mean, again, it's like coming to the product is, if you have that audience already, it really comes down to just asking, like if you haven't asked what your audience or your prospects, need help with, I would be doing that, not obviously as direct as that, but asking certain questions, maybe doing some surveys, to really understand what are they trying to achieve by, paying attention to your content and your training. That should dictate what you're going to sell them first.
Okay, so let's say we've got all our ducks in a row with that. We know where the sort of return on investment is coming from. We just want to hone that funnel. I guess you guys come in with this sort of looking at landing pages, lead magnets, that type of thing. So we're improving the funnel process itself, having, determined our target audience and how we can increase engagement there.
Yeah, 100%. Again, like since we've worked with, or at least we focus on people that are already established, a lot of times they'll have some sort of landing page and things like that. The part that they're missing is, how do I take a person that opts into this lead magnet through an experience that ultimately gets them to buy a product? So sometimes it's a matter of creating new campaigns, connecting old ones together, things of that nature in our world for the most part. Okay.
And for people that haven't done this before, who are looking at perhaps bridging that gap between the lead nurturing on the back end and getting that landing page set up and an engaging lead magnet, there's various ways of doing this, various strategies. There's kind of Ryan Dice's splintering off little parts of the product and then having lead magnets that relate into that, and you sort of upscale the process. There's John Lee Dumas's amazingly successful webinar funnel, which I'm sure you guys have been involved with. Kind of where do we start with it all if we're we're getting some conversions, but we want to start refining the process?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at across the board of any of the people you just mentioned, they're really only using a few different styles or approaches to doing this. You mentioned webinars. So John is known for doing, a ton of live webinars. He has since reduced the number of live webinars, and he does a bunch of automated webinars. So you see Amy Porterfield doing a lot of automated webinars, evergreen, so to speak. So you have live webinars, evergreen webinars. You have free courses, which can be looked at in many different ways. Free email courses, free video courses. And most people that do free video courses do them in the Jeff Walker style of free video course, which is called the product launch formula, which is really just a 4-part video series teaching something. And that's free. So you get people to opt in for this free course, this free video series. And at the end of the video series, you've presented a problem, you've agitated people around it, and then you're presenting a solution, which is, giving them a little bit, but then saying, hey, for like the full system on how to solve this problem that you have, buy my product. And here's what we're going to go through in this product that is going to help you, achieve the result you want to achieve based on the problem you have. So, I mean, really, it's just those. Like, those are like, everyone uses those in some way, shape, or form. And in some way, shape, or form now, they're starting to connect them. So if you go to, I subscribe to almost everybody's launch, so I kind of go through a bunch. So almost anyone I've seen, they'll do that video series, right? So opt in. I'm going to show you in the next 3 videos. I'm going to show you how to create, I'm going to teach you the 7 campaigns that you have to have in Infusionsoft to be successful, right? So someone opts in, and I bring them through each of these 7 campaigns and why they're important, but I don't show how to build them, right? So at the end, it's like, okay, so now that you know that you have these 7, if you want to actually build these, you can join my program where, over the course of X weeks, we're going to show you step by step how to build each of these 7 campaigns so that you could be using them in your business. Now, for anyone that doesn't buy after they've seen those 4 videos, I might say, hey, so you might have some questions. I'm actually hosting a webinar on, this date, and I'm going to be going through in more detail these 7 campaigns and why they're so important. And I'm going to share, 3 case studies of people that implemented these campaigns and are now, crushing it. So I'll take anyone that hasn't converted from the video series and now put them into a webinar series. And now I'm going to promote a couple webinars. And on the webinar, I'm going to sell the same thing. So you're seeing people connect these campaigns together to continue the engagement ongoing. So, but really, again, at the end of the day, it's, one of really 4 styles of campaigns that they're using.
It occurs to me, someone like Frank Kern comes out with these huge funnels, where you segmenting people off and then they go back into sort of reconditioning sequences and then you sort of put them onto different lists and everything. And it's becoming quite complicated sort of at the high end of the marketing process. Is that because the audiences are expecting this type of sort of funnel approach? Can they see it coming? Do you see what I mean?
I don't think so. I don't think customers see it coming. I think that it sounds way more complicated than it really is. I've gone through a lot of Frank's stuff and he has some really brilliant stuff. Frank just has a lot of different products. So there's different ways to approach it is really what it comes down to. And so back to that example. So I'm selling a course on, the campaigns you need in Infusionsoft. I get you into a video series. You don't buy. So then I'm promoting you webinars on the same topic, trying to sell you the same product. Say you don't buy again. What do I do now? I don't want to just let you go cold as a lead. So maybe I put you into a series that is meant to find out more about you. Clearly you're not interested in these campaigns for Infusionsoft, but what are you interested in? So maybe I send them a survey. And based on that survey, I can then know how I should be marketing to them next. And maybe I don't have any other products. So I take that survey and I say, oh, wow, look, 80% of my audience wants to know about Facebook ads. So how can I help them with Facebook ads if I want to? So I could either A, create my own Facebook ads course and then remarket to those people and say, hey, want to make sure that I'm helping you continue to grow your business. I know you said you're interested in Facebook ads. Here's a free video series on how to get started with Facebook ads. Or I could say, hey, my friend who's the expert in Facebook ads has this course. You should check it out. And then I'm just an affiliate, right? So like digital marketer, they have their concept of the machine. The machine, when it comes down to it, is really just 6 or 7, I forget the different number of campaigns, kind of plugged in together. And based on the lead's behavior, they just put them in the appropriate one. And each campaign has a purpose: to get them to buy. If they bought, to get them to buy more. And if they didn't buy, find out why they didn't buy and what they're interested in so that I can remarket something else to them. And that's pretty much it. And it's just a system, and it just keeps going, and gets bigger and bigger. And so because Frank Kern has been around for a while, I see him offer a variety of different products or affiliate programs. And I bet you he's doing less segmentation than you actually think, which is actually the case for a lot of people. And if you haven't bought products 1 through 3, well, he's going to look for a product that he can recommend to you. And that might be one that he is a partner of or one that he creates for himself. So it's just kind of how much bigger do you want to go? And, some people just want to stay niche and keep offering different versions of their own, hey, here's Facebook for beginners, here's Facebook for intermediate, here's Facebook for experts. And those are 3 different products. And if they're like, hey, now I want to learn about how to blog. And they're like, okay, well, here's all the great resources on how to blog, but I don't teach about that.
Okay, so you've got a prospect on your list and they're going to be clicking, because we've got the technology now where you can click links and segment people based on their actions and stuff like that. How long can you keep offering them different products before you just let them drop off the list?
Ideally you keep going and you don't, but that's it. I think that kind of depends on where you're at in your business, to be honest with you. If you're already super successful, creating more products just to keep going bigger might not be what you want to do. Maybe it's just recommending affiliates. So I think it kind of depends on the situation where you're at in your business. But I mean, in digital marketer world, from what I've read and learned, it seems like they want you just to keep offering forever. I don't know if there's necessarily like a specific number of days, months, or years, but I mean, if everything that you keep recommending for them, they don't buy, for me as a business owner, at some point, if I want to say, okay, well, I understand you're getting value from this, but like, I'm clearly not helping you much. Like you're not taking anything to the next level. So I am always for cleaning your list and making sure that it's only full of people that you're able to help and that want help.
Sure, for sure. Okay. So you mentioned content types there, talking about email and video. There's lots of things we can send to people to keep them engaged and facilitate the sales process. How do you sort of test that? The best sort of practice type, email approaches that really work in your experience?
For getting people in?
For once they've, obviously when they sign up, they get, some sort of welcome email. You link them through to various other resources that you might have, and you've got your sort of, but perhaps your sort of links to your social media account, whatever, create some sort of trust and authority, building that up forward. But what types of emails work really well in driving people through those funnels? Are they short? Are they lengthy? I know that some people I talk to email every day, other people email once a week. Is it just, again, determined by the type of business and the products you're selling?
I really do think it's the type of business and the type of audience that you have. I mean, look at like someone like Ramit Sethi, who has 3,000 word long emails, and he has hundreds of thousands of people on his list that continue to read it time and time again. Whereas there's other people that write short and sweet emails that, their audience won't read long emails, right? So again, it's a little bit of you setting the expectation as the business owner. Hey, you're going to expect an email from me every single week, and this is what it's going to talk about. You're going to notice that I go really, really deep on topics. And because of that, I send less emails because I want them to be more powerful. But then you're going to find other people that are like, hey, I'm sending an email twice a week with, things that you should be doing in your business. And they're probably going to be shorter, quick hit tips. So it's really up to you, really what result your audience is trying to achieve. And to that point, I think no matter what style you deliver in, you want to reverse engineer from what your product or service is that you're selling. So, for example, before I do the example, what I aim to do and think people should be doing, and the people that I see successful are doing, is whatever the product is, the lead magnet, whether that's a guide or a webinar or a course that people opt into, that lead magnet needs to have and contain a sliver of the same intent that is going to be required to make the purchase of your product. So an example of that is, and this is maybe kind of a stupid example, but I think it'll make sense. Say you're in the health and fitness space and you sell a product that teaches you specific exercises to get a six-pack, right? It's all about the physical movement that you need to incorporate into your day in order to achieve a six-pack, right? But your lead magnet is, hey, here are the 5 things that you need to be eating to get a six-pack. Now, while they both are kind of aligning with the notion of the result being a six-pack, people that are opting into that most likely are looking for a diet plan, meaning that they might not be willing to buy something that requires them to do all this other work, which is exercise. So those don't have the same intent. You might be attracting people that are looking for dietary ways to get a six-pack versus your product, which is looking at people that are going to be willing to exert energy, right? Which might not be the same. The result might be the same, but the path in which you get there is different. So you might not have good conversion by saying, hey, here's this free course on the 5 things you need to do from a diet perspective to have a better chance of getting a six-pack. And then saying, hey, now that you know the 5 recipes that you should have, buy this program and you need to learn like these 10 exercises, right? So it needs to contain the same intent. So I would, again, reverse engineer from your product and say, okay, what is the reason that people want to buy this? Okay. And then you back out and say, okay, well, what might someone then need to know to kind of warm them up to the fact that they're going to need to buy this. So that's why digital marketer says, let's pull out a piece of our existing product and make that a lead magnet. Because when they say, hey, do you want to learn our, hey, the Facebook ads checklist? I think that's actually what or Facebook swipe file is one of their lead magnets, right? So they're like, hey, download this Facebook swipe file. And they just show you a bunch of really high converting Facebook ads. But that doesn't show you actually how to do anything with those ads. You just see what the front end looks like. So they're like, hey, well, if you want the complete system, we have it in this course. So now so obviously someone's interested in Facebook ads if they're downloading the checklist on what are successful Facebook campaigns, right? Well, now if you really want to know the step-by-step procedure, buy this product because we're going to take you step by step. So I think that's a great exercise to think about, okay, well, what can you take out of your product and then leverage that as part of your lead magnet? Because more likely than not, if you do it that way, the intent will align.
You're listening to the Content Champion podcast, showcasing the training and tools you need to become a content marketing champion in your online business.
It's fascinating sales psychology because I guess we're, as you say, selling results. We're selling what they're going to achieve at the end. And I remember the example you just gave is a great one because I remember a guy called Mike Geary who had a product called The Truth About Abs. And one of his lead magnets was about how to reduce belly fat because he said you can actually have a six-pack under the fat. So that sort of played into the people who were thinking about it from a diet perspective, as you say, but there was a fitness program behind the whole thing as well. So it was just, as you say, that core messaging all the way along, that intent that all led in the same direction to buying his product, but it's kind of tiptoeing into it using different approaches splintered off, as you say, as you go along. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And the thing is that, like, for most people, you just have to start trying stuff, which is why I think, a lot of people think the marketing automation and funnels has to be complicated, but there are people out there that have quote unquote funnels that are really just one email. And the one email, someone opts in for something, one email goes out and pitches them on something and they buy. Like, that could be something that might work for you. Why start writing 50 emails when you might only need one, right? So I always recommend starting with the most simplistic version of what that might be. In your eyes, if you know that when someone opts in for X and you just send one email that explains the problem and does it all in one email, why not try that? If that's not working, maybe break it out because maybe they just don't know you well enough yet, right? So now it needs to turn into this 3-part, 4-part thing. But don't sit there and assume that this 5-part email is going to work any better than one. Why don't you get one live and get people into it and see what happens? Then if it doesn't work, why don't you ask those people what happened? And then if they're like, oh, well, I didn't really understand, why this was important. Well, maybe now you need another email that breaks down why it's important, right? So I think some people spend way too much time planning it and never actually just put anything into place to get real data. So sometimes a funnel could start with one email.
I have great success with Schedule Once and Sartori app, which basically are calendar scheduling services. And there's a landing page and you can sign up for a consultation as we're now chatting on Skype, and then you answer all the questions and you get a client. So it can be literally that simple. Okay, I've mentioned some tech there, and of course your whole team are Infusionsoft trained, and there are various other things that I love, like Active Campaign and various other solutions. There's a ton to play with in terms of tools out there. So how do we pick the best tech solution to sort of meet our goals?
Yeah, and again, I hate the answer of it really depends, but it kind of does. 1, on your goals, 2, your budget, and 3, your business model. So like you said, I love Infusionsoft. I'm a certified partner of Infusionsoft. All of our clients use Infusionsoft. On my personal blog, I'm using ActiveCampaign. I really like ActiveCampaign. I think it's a sleek platform. It's easy, way more intuitive than Infusionsoft, but it doesn't do a lot of the things that Infusionsoft does. It does a lot. I also like Drip. Drip is kind of an up-and-comer. And if you're a blogger or author, I think ConvertKit is a really viable option on the way to go. It just depends on what your business actually is. I find that the reason that things like Infusionsoft is really powerful is the flexibility with the timers is way more robust than any of the other options. So if you're doing evergreen stuff, if you're, very time sensitive things, I think you're probably going to get a lot more out of automation when it comes to Infusionsoft. When it comes to having more all-in-one, which is never really possible, but the fact that Infusionsoft has commerce enabled allows you to do some really, really cool things when it comes to billing automation. And if you're in a business where you rely on recurring subscriptions of any sort, I would typically lean towards Infusionsoft because you could do a lot more around preemptive credit card updates and things like that, unlike other tools that don't have the commerce component enabled. When it comes to commerce, I'm always hesitant to have my commerce tool have to connect to my automation tool through something like Zapier, which a lot is really the way that a lot of tools right now have to connect. So if like you're using Samcart or whatever, choose your favorite e-commerce tool, shopping cart. In many ways, if you want that data into your automation tool, you need some custom coding or something like Zapier, which is very limited on what data it will send over to your automation tool, which means the automation that you can execute is different. So I think it comes down to goals, budget, and business model.
And what's your experience been of Ontraport?
So I started off using Ontraport, which was previously Office Autopilot. My issue with that platform is that they don't have a visual builder. That's my main thing. So I'm a visual person. So building campaigns in Infusionsoft, ActiveCampaign, or Drip is like a drag and drop visual builder, which is very similar to how I draw out my campaigns, or I actually map out campaigns in Lucidchart before ever even going into an automation tool. So it's just hard, for me, it's harder to wrap my head around. So we don't really play with that one anymore.
It's interesting you say you map it out. What was that Lucid app?
Lucidchart.
Lucidchart. Yeah, because I have two whiteboards and I map out stuff on them, and it's almost like it doesn't exist until I've seen it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, like when you map it out in something like Lucidchart, it can start very broad. And as you start adding details like, oh, I need to add a tag here or things like that, it's much easier to see where there's holes than when it's in the actual automation tool itself. So that's why I like using the tool. And then also at the same time, if done right and you understand, if you're using tools that are tag-based like ActiveCampaign, Drip, or Infusionsoft, I can take that Lucidchart and theoretically, if I know these other tools, implement it in any platform. It doesn't matter what tool I'm using because I know how it needs to be built. So that's also nice because I know people that use these other things and I can share the Lucidchart with them and then they can go build it if they want.
Do you segment purely based on tags? Because like in the past, people would just move things between lists, and I like have a general list and a buyer's list, but everyone is tagged within those, segmented down. Is that a good way of doing it, given the power of tagging in some of these sort of more up-to-date tools?
My preference is essentially one master list and segment based on tags, and the tags are applied based on behavior. So I might have customer tags, I might have prospect tags, I might have tags that of everyone that downloaded a particular lead magnet, and then I can send out emails based on tags that people have. And if I'm sending to a particular group of people that have the same criteria and over, depending on the tool you're using, you could create a segment, or in Infusionsoft, it's called a saved search. So a saved search of everyone that has taken action A but is not a customer. And then I could just always email to that segment, and that segment might constantly be growing. So yeah, I prefer just kind of master universe and then tags to create your mini segments.
Yeah, it's amazing automating all this stuff and putting tags in it. Like I find myself sometimes building this stuff for fun, which is a bit nerdy, but when you realize what it can all do, it's just like addictive. Okay, so we mentioned a lot of the tools that we can use there, and I'm sure people will go and check those out. I'm going to ask you about mistakes, but that people make with their sales funnels. But from what you've been saying, the sort of the core to it there is not making it too difficult. Is sort of simplifying everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the simplifying. I would say the biggest mistake is that most people don't follow up with their leads. They let them go cold.
That I've had clients that do that, and it's really frustrating when you're providing leads and they've kind of just not even phoned them back or not even had a process after you've delivered leads to them. I guess there's no way around that. If you're not going to contact leads, then there's nothing much after your job is done that you can do about that, is there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think part of the problem is there's kind of this, I don't want to say movement, but a lot of people are talking about, hey, you need to create content upgrades or lead magnets to get people to opt in, right? And then you have a lead magnet on every single blog post. And yeah, maybe you deliver that lead magnet, but what I've seen from people, because I've opted into their campaigns from their, content upgrades, that there are plenty of people that will deliver that lead magnet and then nothing happens. I don't even get added to their newsletter. At the least, add them to the newsletter and, keep emailing them. But I would always think that you should have, even if you have 5 lead magnets, have one if those lead magnets are all kind of aligned with each other, you should have one master follow-up sequence that is aimed at having them take an action. So great, now they're on your email list and you're just going to email them once a week and maybe you'll send a promotion at some point. Yeah, that's good, but why not turn it into a conversion opportunity where, hey, I know if they download lead magnets A, B, or C, that my product over here might be a good fit. So why don't I create one series of emails or one series of videos that will take anyone that has come through any of those lead magnets and essentially pitch them on my product. And until they're done getting pitched on that product, they're not getting my normal newsletter because I want them focused on this experience of getting this product. People's conversion would increase because they're selling more.
Okay, I'm really interested in this, so I'm going to substitute one of the questions I was going to ask you and just carry on with this before we go and have a look at where we can find you online and everything else. Okay, from a content marketing perspective, because this is a content marketing podcast, can you shift all of this email nurturing content really predominantly onto the back end? And what I'm getting at is if you have a good landing page and you drive traffic to it, however you choose to pay or earn that traffic, you don't necessarily need to do all the blogging with lead magnets and everything else if it's not necessary, do you?
I mean, I think the front end content is great. I think there needs to be a different level of content on the back end, right? So at the core of it, but really from a high level, you need to understand your customer's journey, right? So people that come to you are going to be in different stages of the journey. Some people are going to get to your site and having just realized what the problem is, right? So think more cold in the journey. Then there's going to be people that come in and they already know what their problem is and now they found you and they already realize that you're the solution. So you need to have experiences that are geared towards getting someone a cold lead to convert versus getting a hot lead to convert. Because if you send hot leads through cold funnels, you're most likely going to lose them, right? Like if they're hot, they want to buy right now. And if you send them into a campaign that's 12 emails long because you want to nurture them, well, that's not great because they were ready to give you money and you're now actually preventing them from giving you money. So I think you need to understand who your audience is. Are they all beginners and need to be nurtured? Is there a mix? If there's a mix, what lead magnet might be capturing people that are warmer or hot versus cold? And they would go into different campaigns.
I'm so glad you said that because you don't need to be producing, content every day and tying it into loads of different sort of lead magnets and doing X, Y, Z and pointing people all over the place. It might just be that to go through the process you've described there, you have sort of 3 or 4 really storming pieces of pillar long form content that does the job of segmenting for that customer journey onto the back end where the nurturing process can start. And it can be that simple, can't it?
Yeah. I mean, looking at some of our clients, many of them have really just one funnel, and it all goes to one product. So they don't have 100 lead magnets. They have 1 to 3. And if they come in, if they don't buy the product right off the site, then they're most likely opting into one of these lead magnets. And the lead magnets, is either a long series or a short series, but it's very simple. I mean, it's not, hey, there's 100 ways to opt into my site and all of them are different. There's usually a limited number, and most of them have a very focused experience. Anyone that comes into my world is going to go through this experience, and this experience is geared towards getting them to buy product A. If they don't buy product A, then this happens. It's not, hey, come in and let's see what happens. It's, let's come in, let's pitch them on product A. If they don't want it, let's figure out what we do next.
And you can only do that by working back from the product itself, as you say.
Yeah, and or just not creating product after product after product after product.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, this is fascinating. I could go on about this all day long, but I appreciate your time.
Sure.
Could you remind us where we can find you online, all your resources, and where we can discover more about your services as well, please, Greg?
Absolutely. You can find me at system.ly. The company is called Systemly, and the URL is system.ly, so it's not .com. And then I'm fairly active on Twitter, but recently I've been bringing people behind the scenes on Snapchat. So I'm at Greg Hickman on Snapchat.
Wait for it, listeners. Here comes the PS question.
Brilliant. Well, this is what I call the PS question. Could you please share one advanced content marketing strategy that we can use right after the show?
Absolutely. With a lot of this segmentation stuff, well, so it's not actually content marketing, but it's kind of in line with what we've been talking about. So I don't know when this is going live, but there's a blog post that's going live on our site all about this notion called the do not disturb formula. And kind of what we were talking about, like every time someone opts into something on your site, you're essentially creating a conversation with that person, right? So if someone's opted into 3 or 4 different lead magnets and you have emails that are unique to each one of those lead magnets, you're kind of having multiple conversations with the same person. And if you've ever had multiple conversations with one person at the same time, or multiple conversations with multiple people at the same time, you know that it's hard to follow, right? Hard to keep up, hard to pay attention to all of them. Well, that's essentially what you're doing. So when you have that focused concept of what every lead should go through when they come into you, you can leverage what's called a do not disturb tag. So when they come in, you apply the do not disturb tag. So anyone that you would normally, so then you have your master broadcast list. You keep sending your broadcasts, on your weekly basis, but those broadcasts exclude anyone with a do not disturb tag. So anyone that's opting into one of these lead magnets, which hopefully is pitching one of your products, is going to go through a completely uninterrupted experience, very focused on the sale of that product, and obviously solving the problem that brought them into your world in the first place. And then if they buy, you remove the do not disturb tag, or if they don't buy, remove the do not disturb tag. But let them go through that experience, that funnel, whatever it is, without getting other communications.
That's brilliant. So
it can be simple, but it can also get complicated when you have 100 lead magnets. So keeping it simple is really, really powerful. But leverage focused conversation around a particular experience by creating the do not disturb tag.
That's genius, because then they can just drop down onto the main list again if they don't buy.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's a fantastic answer to the PS question. A really fascinating call. And all that remains to say, Greg, is I wish you all the best with everything in future.
Yes, thank you, Lars. Really appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Content Champion podcast, available at contentchampion.com and on iTunes. Until next time, thanks for listening.